Apologizing goes a long way. Like if you're sorry about something and you wouldn't do it again, then you should say sorry.
Craig, I am so excited to see you in person.
Yeah.
This is so nice to have you in our studio, and I am thrilled about this season.
It's the first time I've been excited for a season.
Really? First time ever?
No, not just in a while, because I get so nervous about them. This year, the spotlight isn't entirely on me. So selfishly, I think I'm a little more excited than usual.
Is there anything about this season that is making you nervous?
You know, a little while back, Sierra had told me, like, your message is usually right, Craig, but it gets lost in your delivery. And I started to work on that. Like, one thing about being on TV is even if you don't watch yourself, you hear about it. And you're not always, the best person you could be. So started to get healthier and cut my drinking and try to be a little less reactive, which Taylor pushed those buttons in the first episode, but I'm happy with how I handled it.
Yeah.
So I don't think I have I think I would take ownership over all of my behavior this year, so it's not as nerve-wracking.
Yeah. Was there anything from particular past seasons that you thought oh, that was maybe not a great moment? Even Winter House and stuff like that too.
Well, there's those shows. There's a lot of context always missing, and but yeah, that was a good example. Regardless of what viewers didn't get to see, if I would have been a little calmer, my point probably they wouldn't have been able to twist it as much as they did. But so it's on me to stay calmer, and this season I think I do a good job of that.
So we're working on ourselves, right?
Yes.
I like that. And do you approach the show differently now that you did, season 1, because you've been doing this for so long, or is it a completely clean slate every time you go into it?
You just got to be yourself. And I told some of the new guys this year, you will regret not being yourself, because at least if something comes out, you can be like, hey, that's how I felt about that situation. You never want to be like, well, what I should have said, and you're like, well, yeah, you should have said it.
How are things with Paige? I'm sure you get the question all the time.
Right. No, they're good. We just had our 2-year anniversary. We're going on a trip for that in a little bit.
Nice.
And I think we've hit a really good stride where we're not letting the unknown of the future, because we're asked a lot when we're filming, and we just don't know. We really don't know where we're going to end up, but we decided to not let that affect us in the present. And New York and Charleston aren't terrible places to split your time. It's an hour flight.
So is it you are living together but just moving cities back and forth?
I mean, that's how it is to me. We hear about actually long distance relationships. I'm like, but we're not. We live together. We just sometimes are in Charleston and sometimes in New York. I think she really enjoys that time apart. And she talks about it. She's like, I get to have my alone time.
Yeah.
I watch my shows, and I am obviously the more sensitive one, so I have to be like, that doesn't mean she doesn't like you, Craig.
Right. Please, I love when my husband travels for work.
Yeah,
I'm like, this is great. Yeah, so you're not putting pressure on yourself on the timeline of all this anymore.
Try not to, and it's funny because people a lot of times remind me that last year I thought I'd be engaged by this time. I really only had rom-coms to base life off of. I thought you dated, there was a conflict, and you got engaged after you made up, and you got married. And when Paige told me on Summer House, she got upset and told me all of her concerns, I actually listened, and I was like, you're right. There's a lot more to figure out. Sure, we're doing well dating now, but we do have to figure out where we're going to live.
Yeah.
We have to talk about money and kids, and 2 years I don't think is that long of a time. So point is, I had a lot of growing up to do. I'm in a way better place this summer than I was last. And it's actually embarrassing that I think I could have gone to her parents last summer and, asked them. I'm just really happy I didn't, because I'm really happy.
You could have been in a totally different place now if you made a different decision.
Right. So, slow, sustainable growth.
I love it. I love that so much. I know you talked about it a little bit about Taylor, flying those accusations about the whole cheating thing. I know she's responded to some Instagrams and something like that.
Neither of us can go out and be secretive.
Right,
about
totally.
anything.
That's so true.
Last night after Watch What Happens, I was with my little cousin and my future sister-in-law. And I was laughing because people were taking pictures, and I was like, I can't wait to see Craig's out with 2 girls.
Totally.
And Paige is like, how on earth would I have pulled that off? When she said it, I went more sympathetic towards her and being like, oh, Taylor. You don't want to be, everyone was always shocked that Taylor was dating Shep because she was such a sweetheart.
Yeah.
I was like, you don't want to turn into the girl that was like, oh, well, that makes sense.
Sure.
But getting cheated on really throws your entire world and everything you thought you knew, like through a loop. And most of us have been there, and it's an awful feeling. I just, in my head too, she's got all the gigglers. I was like, Paige isn't the best person to go after.
No, you don't want to mess with her.
Also, like, it's a stupid thing. I think it's funny because Paige, I'm sure in her head probably, you're never going to be totally cool with someone that says that about you. But I hope, it works out.
Has Taylor reached out to Paige at all?
She does apologize to me.
Okay.
But if she hasn't, she should.
Sure. Do you think Paige would forgive her, knowing what she was kind of going through at the time?
Yeah, I don't think Paige isn't going to hold a grudge. But also, apologizing goes a long way. Like, if you're sorry about something and you wouldn't do it again, then you should say sorry.
So in this upcoming episode, the rumors start circulating about Taylor and Austin.
They would post on their Instagram a lot together. And I remember warning him hey, this might not be the best idea to be spending this much time with Taylor. But, they said that they were just friends, and Shep enjoyed it because, Shep admitted it felt like a life raft to Taylor. It was his way of staying connected. So when it finally came out, you shouldn't be shocked because you're like, oh, it was right in front of her face. I was shocked to see how uncomfortable Austin gets in this moment. And, you're just hoping that it's not true because I feel like our friendship's in a great place. But where there's smoke, a lot of times there's fire.
I was talking to Madison not too long ago, and I asked her, I was like, do you think that they actually make a good couple? And she said yes. I mean, do you?
Yeah, because I think there's a true love there. I'm not saying that they're in love, but I think they love each other like brother or sister. I think they, were going through weird relationships. Austin and Olivia was mostly Austin's fault that it was weird, but they were still going through a weird time, and they were really close. And Madison has said that for a while. She says it this episode too. Yeah, I think in another world, or even this world, I mean, no, it's too messy in this world, but in another world, if her and Austin had started to date before her and Shep, I think it would have been a clean relationship.
Right. Is Olivia okay?
Olivia's doing great.
Good.
Both her and Taylor had some pretty awful things happen in their families this year, and I was actually thinking that watching this episode, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so hard. So I'm praying for them, watching back because of their brothers, and both of their families are doing as well as they can, and I think it puts a lot of stuff in perspective. So there's a lot there. It's a very deep dynamic. There's a lot of layers this year because you'll be dealing with one thing, but then something like that happens, and you're like,
it's like everything else seems so small.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are Olivia and Taylor maybe?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It kind of resembles Vanderpump season, except it's not as dark, and people weren't dating, and people on Southern Charm are truly trying to salvage relationships, which I can't speak to Vanderpump Rules, but theirs was a little more never speaking to each other again.
Yes, you are excommunicated.
Yes. This year, I mean, I think there's a lot of sadness because of the friendships and trying to see if you're ever able to move past them.
Right. Do you feel like Austin is a bad friend then to Shep?
I told Austin, I said, I tell you everything that I say to your face this year on camera. Look, everyone's different. I wouldn't say that he's a bad friend to Shep. When my friend breaks up with someone, I stop hanging out with them. Yeah. But not everyone's me. And I think the older I get, what I think is so cut and dry, I guess, isn't.
You did speak a little bit about Carl and Lindsay. Obviously when we watch back this season, it'll be a little bit more telling.
It's a tough decision to get married for anyone, and there's a lot of thought that goes into it, and I think you'll get to see them trying to figure out the best path for them this summer. And so there's a lot of context from both of them that you just won't that you haven't seen yet. I was shocked by the end result, but that doesn't mean that I don't have more information from being with them all summer than everyone else does. Right. And, unfortunately, the viewer is going to have to wait several months until the show comes out. I know,
but I mean, based on what people are hearing, they are painting Carl out to be this bad guy.
I'm sure, I haven't spoken with him, but I'm sure to Carl, it didn't feel like the right time. If someone decides not to move forward with a wedding, like it stinks, but I don't think that makes someone the devil. You can't judge, someone by the end result without all the context. So I don't know what went down between them, but if I was a betting man, I would say people would be a little more understanding, Don't crucify the man.
Until you have all the facts.
Yeah. And I feel bad for both of them. But I think people that have been in that position and got married and were like, we'll just deal with it later, probably would recommend to people not to do that. Because I think getting married probably makes things more complicated. So if you're not on solid ground beforehand, you probably shouldn't do it.
I'm sure it happens all the time, but just not everybody knows your name.
I mean, I think it's, life's just wild, And so I think Carl is a good listener. Like we talked this summer, and I was like, Paige and I are just, we're trying to, we have a lot to figure out, and I think, we should do it before we get engaged.
Yeah, no, so. It's smart to have those conversations. Are you guys still going to go to Mexico?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I it's so funny that I have no idea what's going on with them a lot of the times. When it all happened, we were flying to Florida, and I was walking out of our apartment with our suitcases, and Paige was like, I can't go anymore. And I was like, this is not happening. Like, Summer House is over. You're done. You're done filming. We're going to Florida. And she's like, I can't, Greg. Like, I have to. And so I ended up leaving, and I went to Dave & Buster's to play arcade games by myself to try to get my thoughts, because I've been looking forward to this trip. And I walked back in the apartment, and Paige was like, what are you doing here? I thought you were in Florida. I was like, no, I just went to Dave & Buster's. And she's like, you're so dramatic, Craig. She's like, I'll meet you in Florida tomorrow. So we went to Pastis instead for dinner.
Very nice.
It was great.
I love that you just go to Dave & Buster's, just let it all out.
I did, and I got clarity and started to laugh and be like, Craig, it's not that big of a deal.
Right. Tell yourself, Craig, I'm so dramatic.
Yeah, I bought her a unicorn with my tickets. And she's like,
I love it. Well, Craig, thank you so much for stopping by in person, and it's
course.
always great chatting with you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me.